Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. Today's pick a card reading is a quick check-in reading, which I'll post outside of the normal 1 every 3 day schedule that I have, because it's a viewer request that I recently got, and one that has a very much a ticking time clock on it, because it is about, as you all have seen when you looked at the title of this, predictions and energies around February 2022. I'm actually going to take that into March as well. So this will cover February and March. And the reason for that is, if you are a regular to my channel, you may have seen my recent community post where I said that I am being plagued with renovation noise from a very, very major renovation that's being done in my next door neighbour's flat. And so it's too noisy to film for the most part. And those renovations are likely to go ahead for the next 5 weeks, so into March. But they did promise me that as long as they don't fall behind time, they won't do noisy work on the weekends. And this is a weekend. I'm filming this on Saturday morning in Australia. So hopefully, if you're seeing this, it means that they were true to their word. And it then meant that I could do this. But I don't know as it goes on. If they fall behind, they may well do renovations on the weekends, and as such trying to do one for March might be even more tricky and a bit more of a risk. So I thought I'd put the two things together. So hopefully you are seeing this, and it means that I've been able to meet the viewer request and we've had relative quiet to do it. So as I said, this is all about February and March, with a particular emphasis on February, but also the energies going through March coming out of it. We're going to look at it from 4 perspectives: your love and relationships, your career and finance, your general well-being, and your spiritual development, progress, issues, and so forth. We'll use tarot initially around all of those, and then some intuitively pulled cards for the different topics. And then we're going to look at some general fortune energy and finalise off with some fun sort of music-based advice from Spirit. What we will do before the music-based advice is we'll also have an opportunity for a couple of yes-no questions. So I'm using a yes-no disc that I got with the Crooked Cat Tarot, and all we will do with that is, so have in mind a couple of yes-no type questions. I'll just simply flip the coin and we'll see what the answer is, and then we'll move into closing out of the reading with the music oracle. So that's just a little bit of extra fun at the end of the reading. So to find the right pile for you, or piles if you want to go to more than one, I'm using cards from the Divine Circus Oracle. I just felt drawn to them as sort of energies potentially around this particular month. So these were intuitively chosen. And you may be drawn to the image, you may be drawn to the wording, which I'll go through. You just may go to particular numbers and so forth. So I'll put the numbers down as usual for the readings, whatever works for you. But we will use this as, I'll tell you the meaning of the card and that energy at the beginning of the reading before we go into the tarot. So pile 1 has meant for you, pile 2 has lady luck, pile 3 has supernova, and pile 4 has out of darkness. So as I say, the wording energies might call to you, the images may be the numbers. You do whatever way you need to find the right pile or piles to go to. Pause the video if you need to contemplate the images and decide which one or ones to go to. When you know, as always, the timestamps will be in the description box below, and I'll see you in your reading. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. So as I said, we'll start very quickly talking about the meaning of this card, because I think that if you're drawn to it, you're drawn to the energy of the card, and that will be representative of some of your February and March. And you were drawn to meant for you. This is a very, very positive card. It's basically an affirmation from Spirit that the things that you have been working for, the things that you have been striving for, are going to be coming for you. You're going to be achieving those things, if not in February, March, certainly very soon thereafter. So there is a sense of achievement of something that is meant for you, something that is within your character, within your destiny. It does say sometimes it will come in a way that you don't expect. So as people say often around manifestation, it can be that something comes to you and it's better to talk about the feeling and what you want to achieve out of something rather than necessarily a particular material outcome. So it is possible that there could be something unusual or different or quirky. This card kind of indicates this around how you get to your destination and exactly what it looks like when you get there. But it's certainly saying that some things that you have been striving for are meant for you. You are meant to achieve these things. And so relax, use your best strategies, your best ideas, be positive, move forward, because the universe is actually behind you and is going to be helping you along. So we will see with the tarot whether this particularly seems to be in one area of your life or whether it's just a general feeling of, in a sense, your harvest coming in, a time where potentially you've struggled, you've been trying to work out the best pathway and so forth. That would, to me, be the logical sort of energy that preceded this card. So this is a sense of relax, things are starting to come into view. So I'm just shuffling now the tarot deck, and I'm going to put down 3 cards for each of those areas so that we can have a look at the more specific detail for you in February and March. So around love and relationships, around career and finance. I'm going to move these up a bit so they'll all fit in. Around general well-being. And around spiritual. Okay, so I can certainly see just straight off the bat some of this sort of energy of something coming through both in career and finance and potentially around spiritual development. They're both very strong in terms of energies about completion, solidifying things, achieving things, having recognition and so forth. So that's positive. But let's start firstly with relationships and go through them one by one. Around relationships, it looks like there's something new or different or changed. So it will very much depend. If you are in a relationship at the moment, it may be suggesting with both the Hanged One upside down, which suggests a different perspective, taking things in a different direction, and with the Fool, which in this deck is particularly sort of connected to Uranus, so that sense of revolution and change and so forth. And then with the Page of Air reversed, it looks as though something in terms of communication, a communication blockage actually, I think, is going to lift. So if this energy was around a relationship and trying to take it to another level, trying to find a relationship if you've been on the dating scene, trying to move on from one so that you felt ready and able to sort of go out and look for somebody else, or just shift an existing relationship into something else, something different, clarify maybe confusion or arguments. They feel more like they'd be simmering arguments. If you're in a relationship and there's been issues around it, it's more like what isn't being spoken rather than what is that's causing the issue. And if that's the case, if you take the lead with the Fool and with the Hanged One there in a different perspective, a different way of dealing with things, you can clear that blockage and so forth. So certainly and this could be a love relationship, it could be any type of relationship, but there's certainly a sense of the new. So February, March is a period of time for you to resolve and clarify and take relationships to the next level, or to find new relationships. If it is a new relationship you're finding, there may well be some communication issues to start with. It doesn't mean that it's a bad relationship. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It's just meaning that if you find there's communication difficulties, you're not really sure, you feel a little bit uncertain, then it's a perspective shift. I really think in all of these, it's suggesting good energy around relationships, love and others, but something new, something changing, something shifting. And you feel to me like you're in the driver's seat. And I feel that connects with the meant for you. There may literally be someone who is coming into your life now, a divine partnership, for instance, or a soul twin, somebody that is meant for you. and takes you on a completely new journey and so forth. But in doing it, there's a shift. There's a shift for both of you. And if it is an existing relationship that you want to take to the next level, I think there's a lot of positives there. But I think this Page of Air being reversed picks up this sort of sense with this card, which is sometimes something is meant for us, but it comes to us in a different way to the way that we expect. So I do think there is energy around relationship that connects to that and connects to finding the right relationships, the right friendships, resolving simmering issues that might have existed about differing viewpoints in family or friendships or whatever this is for you. That looks like that's going to shift, and you are probably the person who's going to make that happen. Over in career and finance, I do think that for many of you, you are going to either get a promotion, or you are going to establish a business more that you're running, or there is sort of like a really great contract coming in, or just money in general with the King of Earth, which is effectively the King of Pentacles, and the Capricornian energy of the Devil card here. I believe that there is money of some form coming to you, or as I say, career advancement. Now, the one issue that it's showing around this is that it could have some impact on relationships, potentially close relationships. It may indeed be changing to do a more demanding job or a more responsible job has an impact on an existing relationship that you therefore have to have the conversation. Those two together could work that way. But with the Two of Cups reversed, there is a sense of an emotional equilibrium issue that needs to be sorted through. And with the Devil card, there's a possibility that isn't seen head on. If you don't deal with that you could feel a bit trapped or a bit bound by the requirements of your career or money, building money and so forth. So the very, very earthy powers of the world type feeling around your career and finance. And I do think your finances and career look good, but I think that there is an adjustment around either how much love you have for what you're doing. It might be that you move up the ladder, but you're not necessarily as in love with what you're doing, which again might be you are meant to be a leader, and that takes a shift, and that's a shift that you need to think about. Or as I say, it could be around relationships and how you balance the two. There's a similar balance issue down here around general well-being. On a basic level, this is very, very positive. You have two aces, even if one is reversed. Aces are blessings, new beginnings, so that this sort of new beginning energy is here as well. New philosophies about health and well-being and your general lifestyle are coming into being. You're not really sure yet exactly what steps to take with the Ace of Earth reversed, but there is there's very good health by the looks of things. Now, I would say always when I'm talking about health and well-being, if you have any issues, do not rely on a tarot reading. Go and get professional advice. But in general terms, the energy around this looks good. It looks like you're following a good routine for your health, for your diet, for your exercise, all of those things. And there is an exchange of energy operating either with others in doing that. Maybe you're doing sort of healthy activities, sporting activities or something with other people. Or it could be just in a sense, it's an exchange of energy with the earth, with the universe, with the food that you take in and all of that sort of thing. So there's definitely a positive energy around that, a new way of looking at it again. There's a lot of new ways of looking, actually. There's a shift coming for the people in this group, whether it's around relationship, career, or both. But I think it creates a shift in thinking about how you look after your well-being. And I don't think you will have fully worked that out by the end of March. I think you'll be well on your way to sorting out what that means, because you are putting the sort of mental energy into working it out, and there's a good baseline there. Spiritually, you look as though you have been battling something. Battling maybe, I think, for most of you within yourself, for recognition of your understanding, your beliefs, your knowledge about things. It looks like you put a lot of work into some form of spiritual development, some sort of spiritual knowledge. With the Hierophant, it tends to represent the more traditional sorts of spiritual approaches like sort of religions and religious mysticism, but it doesn't have to be that. It certainly has that sense of higher learning and so forth. And with the 10 of Fire of 10 of Wands, it looks as though you've put a lot of energy into that. There is recognition coming for you though. So this could turn up for somebody who was learning a certain thing, doing a particular course. So say it wasn't as traditional as Christian mysticism. Say it was something like Reiki. It may be that you've been putting a lot of energy into learning that, and you'll get the recognition of having reached the levels and so forth. There's definitely a sense of recognition and energy released, but it's after a lot of work. So it may be that the card here connecting that is suggesting that you have been putting a lot of energy into working out what is your spiritual path, what are the modalities that work the best for you, really, really studying those, really practicing those, and you're coming into a period where you're going to feel much more recognised by others if there's anybody who sort of accredits or sort of has mentored or coached you, but certainly also within yourself a sense of recognition. So it's a very, very positive sort of energy around you. I think the only thing that I'm getting, apart from you may need to recalibrate relationships either because of career or other things, the only other thing that I'm getting from this is that you do need to kind of get a balance, I think, between career, finance and relationships. There's something in there and you need to think differently about things. That's the core message of that card as well. So let's have a look and see what particular cards there were for each of these. So I intuitively pulled some cards that I thought were from decks that made sense for the different topics. So a couple of cards from the Heart Code Oracles. Firstly, relationships deck for love and relationships. And we have adventure and consequences. Okay, so adventure is picking up that fool energy, I think, and not being foolish, but taking that step, doing things. This is saying that is the energy to take, and things that are meant for you are coming for you, but there are consequences. That's why it's important to keep an open mind, I think, and to keep an open dialogue around relationships. And if you are looking to shift a relationship that's had some difficulties for whatever reason in whatever area of your life, then that sense of let's look at it differently is great, but think about the consequences, because I feel like you're going to lead the discussion. You're going to be the person who instigates it. So being very aware of the consequences of that is important when you start out. I mean, nobody has perfect information about that sort of thing, but I think that you have the sort of depth to be able to understand what the perspective shift looks like. And I think the adventure potentially is connecting over here for some of you around, you know, a new business venture or a new promotion or something, and that has consequences around relationships. So it's just being aware of those things. So let's see what other energy there is around career and finance. Feather. Wow, okay. So I think many of you who've come here may have a business idea, a business that you could establish, a side hustle, something, because there's definitely that sense of a light bulb moment, lucrative ideas and so forth, the feather, abundance, easy money, divine intervention. It is meant for you. There's a very strong connection here between your career and finance and this energy. But yeah, it's the entrepreneurial spirit, the new job, something creative potentially. Interesting with feather, it could also be travel related. It could mean that you have to travel quite a bit for this new job or this new business or whatever this energy is. That may also have some consequences around relationships, around partnerships and so forth. If you're in an established relationship and you don't see the person as often, or if you're sharing parenting responsibilities and you're traveling a lot, it's just getting that sort of thing in balance. But it's definitely saying that there is something coming through that is really positive financially and in a career. And it looks like there's an aha moment, which I think connects to this card. It's like understanding that maybe things that you thought were challenges or issues are actually a different way through. And once you have that different perspective, you can actually bring that energy in. Let's have a look, therefore, down here around your general well-being. So we're using a couple of other Heart Code Oracle decks around this, well-being and lifestyle. So these ones can be a little bit hard to read. So we've got triggers, and this one's easier to read, perspective. So I think this is very much starting to show the key message here. There is something, I think, primarily around your career and finance in the next couple of months that will have some consequences on relationships and how you relate. That's why you need to think differently about it and establish the dialogue, because otherwise you are going to trigger anxiety in yourself or in other people. As I said, you have your basic constitution, your basic health looks very, very good, but perspective around lifestyle and the impacts of things are important, because otherwise it triggers things that cause the sort of more difficult energy around communication and so forth. So it's very much saying that the moving forward financially, career and in the world, in that sense, you do need to think about the consequences with relationships, the triggers that could have, and your perspective can turn this more into an adventure. Over here, we've got a couple of cards for your spiritual development as well. So we've got that sense there that you've actually progressed a great deal. So let's see what energy is around you going forward. Wow, extremes and decision. Okay, so I think the extremes might be picking up the amount of work that you've been putting into things, and it could also be, for some of you, when you have the Hierophant, the Ten of Wands and the Extremes card together, some of you may in fact break away from a particular more traditional way of doing spirituality to do something else, because you feel as though the traditional way is too restrictive in some ways, too extreme. So some of you, the recognition energy, the freedom energy there, may be that. Certainly there's a decision to make. I think the decision is connecting back to, you've put a lot of work into something, now what do you do with it? Now that you know that you're at the level where you could do something spiritually independently, for instance, and you've possibly made the decision about where you want to go, how do you do it? But it is possible that these connect here. That's the other way that there could be relationship issues. If there is something that you've been following spiritually that connects with your family, for instance, and you're moving away into something else, then there may be some reactions. Perspective's going to be important, the consequences. It's a balancing act. I just feel like you're moving up, and that's what this card was really all about, but it's how you balance your relationships. That's the key thing. So let's have a look at just some general fortune energy around. Then I'm going to look at some angel numbers. Then we're going to do the yes/no questions before we finish out with some musical advice for you. So firstly, I'm just using a standard sort of fortune deck, which is a bit different to tarot, I think, just to sort of get the general fortune energy for some extra information for you in February and into March. Okay, so this is interesting. This is a bit of a wild card being thrown into it, I think, pile one. I think that there is definitely, for some of you, there is definitely a new relationship coming, and there's seduction, so passion and romance await. But it is saying in that case that true feelings are masked. So if this is about a new relationship, that's probably why the Page of Swords was reversed, and why you need to keep your I think, an open mind. It doesn't mean that it's bad, but it is saying there's a hindrance. Now this says fate has blocked this path for you. If this is actually wrong, it won't come for you. But remember, this card here was about, it may come in a way you don't expect. So I think that it's saying together, if this is picking up a romance issue, and I think this is primarily talking about this, that it's not necessarily that fate has blocked the romance, but it's blocked the path, because this is saying the way that you expected things to come to you is not the way it's going to happen. So if you're looking for a new relationship, for instance, and you've been doing it, and I'm just an example, through some online dating site or something, it may be that that's not the way you're going to find it. Maybe you're going to find it through your sort of work, because there's that sort of, you know, growth and energy around that, for instance. Or if you have only been looking amongst people that you worked with for potential romance, maybe it's something else. So I think it's saying it's there, and when it happens, there's definitely a strong attraction, but you will need to clarify things to make sure that it's right. So if you are not looking for romance at the moment, then I would think that these fortune cards are probably a part of this reading that isn't specifically for you in this period of time, because remember, this is a collective reading. Okay, so let's get a couple of angel numbers for you, just to see what other energies are around you in this period. Okay, so firstly we have 1818, which is the angel of receptivity. So this is saying prepare to embrace wealth and abundance with gratitude and humility, claim your blessings. So that's very much saying with the 1 as being you as an entrepreneur and the 8 energy, it's being sort of like financial consolidation, all of that sort of stuff. It's very much showing there's sort of angelic support for you here. But you do need, in taking it on, to also use the energy of 106, the angel of discipline. It says you are being called to assert yourself and take initiative. You are stepping into your power and authority. So there's definitely a sense here of you leading out in relationship, in career, and so forth, or potentially also in your spiritual development. Okay, so before we close out with a couple of decks around music for you, we will do the yes, no. So I'm going to just toss this off camera, because if I toss it on camera, I might break the camera. So I'm going to just ask you now to think of your first question. If you need to, pause the video while you're thinking of it and then start the video again, and I'll then go to the second question. So there's not going to be any great explanation about this. It's just a simple yes, no. So if you could think about your first question now. And the answer is yes. Okay. Think about your second question. Pause if you need to. And the answer is no. Okay, so you've got a yes and a no. All right. Now, how we're going to finish off with music is this is just to be a little bit amusing potentially. So I'm starting with the Jukebox Oracle for a couple of cards for the soundtrack of February and into March for you, and then we're going to use the music oracles for a connection to some musician from history and their advice, and that often is humorous rather than deep, but we will see what we get. So firstly, let's pull a couple of cards for the soundtrack of your February-March. Okay, so this is definitely pointing to the main challenge for you, whether it's coming from a career or whether it's coming from new relationships or changes in relationships. It's definitely pointing to the main challenge, and where you need to think of a different pathway, a different way of achieving something is in the area of relationship, because we've got end of the road. I don't think, again, that's about all pathways being blocked, because this card says that's not the case. It's the type of way that you get to what you want. And love is a battlefield. So that's why, if you were aware of this, you take this on, then you are more likely to be able to resolve those issues and so forth. I'm also getting spiritual love. I'm getting, for some of you, there is actually a breaking away from a form of spirituality you've done and embracing something new and making that decision to be more true to yourself. So that may connect for people very specifically in that way. So last but not least, pile 1, we'll just pull a Music Oracles card. As I say, this can be amusing rather than deep, but then again, sometimes it really fits. So take it as an amusing end or as something further as advice from Spirit, whichever works for you. We've got John Coltrane. So very deep. That's very deep and very sort of new and very successful in terms of his music. His advice is take your solo, but give others their moment too. Now, this could be connecting to this. This could be, if you are really moving forward, make sure that you're also thinking about the consequences for others. He says, if you follow your own truth, there are no false notes. So I think that's just follow your truth to move towards the pathway that is right for you, that is meant for you. And he also says, find beauty in the unexpected. So there is something new, there's something Uranian in this energy, there's sort of like light bulb, flashes of genius, all that sort of thing. So take those on and just work out how to bring them into your life rather than either rejecting them or trying to force them through. Bring them into your life in relationship with others, particularly loved ones, so that you can really fully enjoy the benefits that are meant for you. So I hope that resonates for you, pile 1. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 2, to your reading. So as I said, we'll just start quickly looking at the energy around the card that drew you here, and then we are going to use tarot to look at the particular aspects of your life for February and March 2022. Being drawn to this card is interesting. It is a card that indicates that a lucky break is coming for you. So if you have been struggling with something or felt that luck hasn't been on your side, then you are likely to find that something will surprise you, something will shift, something will move forward for you in this period of time. And what this card is inviting you to do is understanding that some of luck is about attracting that to you through a positive attitude, through a sense of gratitude to the universe, a sense of forward momentum, rather than perceiving the world as lucky for others and so forth. So there's an invitation to you in this period of time to look at a lucky break as an indication of a tide turning. And if you take that on with positivity and with gratitude, you're likely to make that lucky streak last longer. So this is an invitation for a change of attitude, but it's also a blessing from the universe to show you, if you've been feeling the opposite of recent times, like you can't get a lucky break, that you are not somehow shut out from the universe's bounty, that's not in fact at all the case. And so something is likely to come in this period of time in one or more aspects of your life that shows you that gives you that sense of luck and that sense of positivity. So I think that's very, very positive. It'll be interesting to see whether it's very clearly in one aspect or more of your life. So we're going to do tarot for love and relationships, for career and finance, for general well-being, and for spiritual development during this period of time. So I'll just shuffle and then lay out the cards for that. And we'll see what we see and what areas your life Lady Luck might be visiting. Okay, so firstly, just even putting down those cards, I get the sense here of the people who've come to this reading, you're actually going to start to manifest on a spiritual level. It's almost like this piece of luck, I think, whatever it is, wherever it manifests, is going to start to sort of make you realize what you can do. With the King of Earth there, so the King of Pentacles, and then the Four of Earth reverse, which suggests to me moving out of a sense of a feeling of lack into a sense of bringing something in, with the Page of Air, which is a new philosophy, a new way of doing things. But because it's a page rather than an ace, it's a fairly well-developed philosophy. It's like you get a breakthrough. I think there's a breakthrough, whether it manifests just in a spiritual level or whether it is that your spiritual work that you've been doing is going to manifest in a very material way in some way. There's definitely a sense of that. So I think it really is aligning strongly to this, and you are in the box seat to be able to use this energy in the best possible way, because you'll start to realize the work you've been putting into sort of positive spiritual development is going to have a more physically manifest way in some way. Now, looking at relationships, there is maybe for some of you a shift around a relationship. It could be an end of a long-term relationship with the 10 of water or 10 of cups reversed, or it could be that you are still dealing with issues coming off some sort of breakup that's potentially long-term, potentially also one that involved a family, children, all that sort of thing with the 10 of cups. If it's not that, then it would suggest that in fact there is a good relationship coming through, one that there is a really nice balance of the sort of divine feminine energy and the divine masculine with the Empress, and then also with the King of Fire or King of Wands. That's a really nice strong energy between the sort of emotion and earthy sort of side and the kind of ambition and charisma and so forth. But if that's the case, it's coming in after you felt a lack of love in life in some way. So this could be that the thing that you manifest is in fact a relationship, and you have to be able to trust it because you've had a sense before that these things don't last, that they're not what they appear, that kind of thing. So there's a dual energy here, and I think it'll depend, everybody who's come to this reading, it'll depend on your circumstances. But for some of you, I think you're moving forward, and if that's the case and you're moving out of a relationship, then I feel as though if there are sort of things to sort out. They will sort themselves out relatively well, because it's only the sort of lack of the emotion. It's the rest of the energy seems to be okay. So if you were dealing with a breakup, it looks as though it's going to be emotionally a bit draining, but it's going to be okay on other levels. As you know, if you had to divide resources, or as I say, look after children, share those sort of responsibilities, I think that will be fine. But if it's not something like that, if it's a new relationship coming in, then I feel that the only block potentially is feeling like that's what happens for everybody else, because the shadow of this card is that thing of feeling luck is for everybody else. So even when something lucky happens, you don't perpetuate it because you don't believe it. Now, I don't think most coming here will do that, because I do feel down here the spiritual work you've done will protect you from that. But that's the one sort of energy there, that if a really good relationship came in, then there could be some sort of doubt, and you need to think about that doubt. If it's not about a love relationship, if it's about family or something like that, it looks as though there might be an improvement after some emotional turmoil within a family, and possibly the mother and father, or the two parents, whatever sort of gender and so forth we're talking about in the particular family construct, maybe are sorting through some emotional stuff. And if you are one of those, then that's what you're sorting through. But if you are the child of somebody, for instance, so if you are living with your parents and there's sort of emotional issues, then it suggests that that's going to be sorted through as well too. So that's quite specific. I think the greater majority of people that come to my readings would not be in an age group for that, but that is possible with an Empress and also with the King there, that there's something around family and potentially parental figures in some way. But I do think for most it's going to be a amicable, a little bit emotionally sort of draining, but amicable separation, or a new relationship which you just need to be able to have a bit more faith in than maybe the past has given you reason to do. Over here around career, there is a sense of something quite solid and something quite stable, and there's a little bit of a feeling of frustration with that. I feel like with the Hierophant here, most people who've come here will be in traditional sort of organisations, employees, could be a leader within an organisation, but it feels as though it's sort of like traditional sort of career paths and so forth. But there's a push for you to do something a bit more creative, I think, or there could have been some disruption, or there might be about to be some disruption in that organisation. With the Five of Air reverse, it suggests in actual fact for most, if there has been disruption, most of it is over because it's reversed. So the Five of Air or Five of Swords in a context of career or finance is some battle where you take your losses and you move on into the sort of better place. And when it's reversed, it's like, it feels to me as though most of that's occurred, so you are working that through. But with the Knight of Fire reversed, which is the Knight of Wands reversed, it feels as though you felt constrained in the actions that you could do. So it definitely has a sense of people who have either been in a job where change has occurred, you're going to be okay, it's going to be fine, but you weren't able to express yourself as much as you wanted to around it. Or it could be, if you're running your own business or you've had financial issues, you felt constrained by the financial institutions or the rules and policies or regulators or something. You've gone through a period of a bit of constraint, but I feel as though you will start, particularly with this energy here with the King of Earth, to be able to see the way through, that the worst of that is done. But again, it could be what is partly making you feel like you haven't had a lucky break. You've been caught up in things. And certainly many people at this stage, of 2022, coming off a couple of years of dealing with the pandemic, have had to deal with constraints and limitations and so forth around career advancement, around money and so forth. So I think it's just picking up that energy. Down here around well-being, you do look a bit exhausted, to be honest. So I think it's either been emotional turmoil that you're coming out of, or it's this constraint and this change around career. But with the Ten of Swords, the best news about it is that the worst is over, that it's sort of like the nervous energy and the worry is about to shift. That's over with the World card, so that's a cycle completing. But it is saying that your batteries are a bit low with the Three of Fire reverse. So think about getting more rest, think about meditating, think about what your diet is doing, think about exercise that builds endorphins rather than just kind of makes you feel tired. There's a end to a cycle of nervous energy that's been around you, and things are going to get better, and you have done the spiritual work necessary, but your body kind of needs to catch up. So, and I always say when I'm talking about well-being and physical stuff, if there's any sort of issues around that, don't just rely on a tarot reader. Go and get professional advice, go and see a doctor, go and see a naturopath, go and get a massage, whatever it might be. But I definitely, just generally energetically, it is saying the worst of the issue is over, but you are tired. I am getting, for some, maybe you've had to deal with some sort of illness over this period of time, and that might have also been constraining what you could do with your career. But again, the worst of that looks like it's over, but there is some sort of replenishment of the batteries that is necessary. So if that's the case, definitely get the right advice. Okay, so now we're going to look at the cards that were intuitively pulled for each of these categories. Then we're going to look at some general fortune and angelic number energy before we're going to use the disc with yes no for some yes no questions. So think of a couple of those as we go through that you want to ask, either about anything that's being raised here or anything else that you want, and then we'll close out with some fun music oracles as well. So firstly, let's have a look at what else information we can get around relationships for you. Harmony, listen. Okay, so I think that's a double message. I think most people who've come here, you've been through quite a bit with relationships and either been alone because of it, or you've been going through issues in your sort of family or with your partner or something. But I definitely had that sense it was becoming better, that energy was dissipating and things were coming into balance. And I think that's confirming it with harmony. But it is important to listen. And it could be on two levels. Because you've picked Lady Luck, it may be that you expect the worst almost. So listen, because there's maybe more harmony. If this is new relationship and you kind of expect the worst because of past relationships, listen, because there's something better about this. If it's in a relationship that you're in, listen to your partner, because there is harmony that you can reach. If this is in non-love relationships, similarly, harmony is more possible than you think, but it does require listening for the cues, listening for the sign of luck and so forth. Let's look at career and finance. So earning power with Tower. Okay, so this is great. So we've got Tower, which, unlike the Tower in Tarot, which is all about sort of revolution and change, the Tower in this deck is about things that are more stable and so forth. So this is earning power, building a business, sound decisions. And we've got ornaments, which has extra money, mature investment, celebration. It's picking up this King of Earth here. There's something that you've done almost spiritually on a sort of energetic level that is going to shift you out of this period of constraint. It is very likely with both the Hierophant and with this that you're in a corporate job or a government job or an academic job, something that's fairly well established. It can sometimes be an unstable position, but I think this is more energy you're moving out of. I think there may have been instability around you, but I'm feeling very strongly that this is more stable now. Some of you may work in retail beauty or something along those lines. And for some of you, because we've got retirement with ornaments, some of you may be in fact about to retire and be able to do something else. But if that's the case, then money is coming to you, or you might be able to do a sort of semi-retirement business or something if you're in that sort of age group. Okay, let's have a little bit more of a look at well-being. So this can be a little bit hard to read, this one, but it says fatigue. Yes, you're definitely tired. Oh, too. And baggage. Yeah, you're carrying a lot of baggage. That's, I think, as I say, the shadow side of the Lady Luck card is where there is a lot of baggage. There's a sort of almost a pessimism around certain things and how much energy you've put into things, whether it's around relationships, whether it's around career, could be one or both with anybody who's come to this. But you need to take a bit of a rest and you need to sort of like let the past go, because a better cycle is meant to be coming in. So let's have a look about spiritual stuff, because I think in your spiritual area, it's the place that you've most worked on this. It's the place that's going to bring the luck in. So hunger and scarcity. Oh, okay. See, I think that the reason that you have actually progressed around your spiritual development, and you are going to find the luck is going to come through, Pole 2, is because you have had this sense of scarcity, this sense of where is my luck, where is my opportunity, and so forth, a great hunger for it. And interestingly, it's made you focus on your spiritual development. It's made you focus on all those sort of energetic things, and it is going to pay off. But it's a weird thing. It's like the trigger was the baggage. The trigger was the potential instability for a while. The trigger was the sense that luck was for somebody else. And in this case, it's worked for you. But the message of Lady Luck is not to stay in that energy, that you've achieved what you needed to achieve spiritually, and it will start to show up around career, around more harmonious relationships. It's not to stay hungry, because I think that's what's causing the depletion of your energy. It's to say, I've arrived and now it's going to get better, not, it's just going to slip back into the past. That's that you are very much in the driver's seat around that pole too. So let's ask for some very specific fortune energy, which I think is a little bit different to tarot, which is more around choices, but just using a classic fortune deck. Let's see what else Spirit wants to tell you about your February and March. Okay, I think this is actually showing a narrative. I think the hindrance is not necessarily something you're coming into with fate has blocked this path for you. There could be something. It could be that if you're trying to reconcile a relationship, really you have to find the way to separate in an amicable way because that energy is done. Or if you were trying to hang on to a particular situation at work and you just need to sort of move forward, it is possible that that's the case. But I feel for most this is more that this is the pattern. This is what you felt. This is what's caused that hunger, but also made you do the work. Because then we move to the shield, you are safe from harm, and the griffin, honor and good luck. So there's definitely a shift, but it's needing to shift out of that sense of scarcity, that sense of hunger, that sense of lack, that sense of blockage, and move into understanding that you are protected, you are safe from harm, and you are going to find that good luck coming through. So let's see what angel numbers are around you to help you, pole 2. Okay. So I think this is picking up this energy in Spirit. It's really showing you guys have done a lot in relation to your spiritual development, and it is going to pay off. So the first one we have 2365, the angel of grounding. This is saying your angels are urging you to work on grounding yourself, which will improve your mood, health, energy, and sleeping habits. Yes, this is about getting rest. Ground. Take that King of Earth ability you have and apply it to yourself, not just to the external world. And then we have light work with 33. Your angels are nudging you to focus on your natural abilities. You are meant to heal, inspire, teach, create, and bring loving light into the world. This is why it's all coming from your spiritual center. If you focus and build from there, the other things sort themselves out. You are more in control of this than you think, and luck is more able to come to you than you think. But you do need to ground, and you do need to continue work on your spiritual center, but in a much more light and open way, not so hungry, not coming from a sense of scarcity, but coming from a grounded sense. So I think the messages are quite clear. Okay, so we're going to do a couple of yes/no questions before we close out with the music oracle. So I'm going to flip this yes/no coin off camera because I'm a bit worried I could smash the camera if I do it on camera. And then I'll show you it like that. So if you need to pause while you're thinking of each question, do that. Otherwise, if you know your questions, we can go through them quite quickly. I'm not going to do any sort of analysis on this. It's a simple yes, no. So if you could think about your first question, please. And the answer is no. Okay. And if you could think about your second question, pause if you need to. And the answer is yes. So you've got one no and one yes. All right, so let's close out with some fun energy. So firstly, we're going to pull a couple of cards to show the soundtrack of your life in February and leading into March. And then we're going to use some music oracles for advice from music icons. So firstly, let's see what the soundtrack of your February, March is, pile 2. No ordinary love. Emotions. Okay, so that's leading us back very much to here. So I think for many of you, there is a new relationship or a relationship you have that either you can resolve issues that have been there, or that that you can let go of, but see it in an amicable way. There's something very exceptional. So it's new, or as I say, you're moving away from something, but it's very emotional because it was very important if that was the case. I think for most it's something new coming in, but I feel like you get overwhelmed with the emotions about it. So, but remember that the past is past. You're moving into a better phase. Okay, so just to finish off, we're going to use a card from the Music Oracles, it can be really just amusing and fun, but sometimes it also has messages that are very on point. So let's see what it wants to close out the reading with. Okay, we have Miriam Makeba. I'm not actually familiar with her, so I don't know her music. Possibly you do, or you can look her up if you want. But her advice to you are, if the times are broken, it is our job to mend them. So there's something in here that says and I think you've been doing the work spiritually about mending that within and taking the rest and so forth. That's the job to do at the moment, to allow the luck to come in. She says, your joy makes fools of your oppressors. So if you have been battling people in any realm of your life, then take the joy with the luck, take the positivity. And lastly, she says, in an age of liars, the truth is dynamite. So certainly, if you are needing to sort of clear the air on anything, you've got the strength to do it and you have truth on your side. But trust the luck that's coming to you. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 2. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you care to share about it, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 3, to your reading. So as I said, we're just going to go quickly first over the energy of the card that you chose to come to this reading before I then use tarot to look at love and relationships, career and finance, general well-being and spiritual development for the month of February and then into and through March. So all of the people who've come to this reading, if you're drawn to the Supernova card, that's very interesting. It's a card of raw dynamic force, and it's a card that talks about a change or an energy to bring in something new, to I guess resolve issues and move forward and to accelerate. So it's a time of accelerated growth. It may be something that's quite unexpected that comes out of the blue, so you just might have a sixth sense about that, and that's what drew you to the card. It may be also something that you've prepared for and you've got all your rocket fuel in hand to have the supernova to push forward and move very fast. And what it says as a general rule is that you will require really major change, really major energy into something. It may not be that you have to sustain that in the longer term. In fact, the card talks about the raw, untapped energy that brings something into being is often not the energy that you use to maintain that afterwards. So there's something very innovative, there's something very explosive around this. Now, it could, of course, be something unexpected like the Tower card in tarot. It'd be interesting to see if that card comes up, and if so, in what area in your life. But it doesn't have to be that. It could be a very contained and targeted and strategic burst of energy as well. So we'll see whether it looks like it's in all the areas of your life, whether it's potentially in one more than the other, and how that may impact it and so forth. But this is a time of major change, but where you can literally be in the driver's seat and ride the rocket to the heavens, so to speak. But you do need to understand that energy can't be there forever. It needs to be grasped and taken advantage of while it's occurring, so that then whatever you are trying to bring into the world can settle into something with a different and a calmer sense of energy going forward. So very interesting. If you've been drawn to this one, very interesting energy around February, March for you. So let's have a look and see what the tarot wants to tell us about the 4 areas in your life. So firstly, love and relationships. And career and finance. General well-being. And spiritual. Okay, so the Tower card didn't come out. So that does suggest to me that you're probably more aware of whatever this is than it being completely unexpected. That there's a lot of change energy potentially, or suppressed energy that you are wanting to deal with around your career. So we'll get to that. But the first thing that really struck me is the sun and moon coming out in relationships. For some people, what this may be is the meeting of the divine counterpart, the soul twin. Sun and moon together is alchemy. It is a very strong potential around relationships, of a very, very significant relationship coming in, and one that maybe at first you're not sure of, with the two of air or two of swords there, you need to make a decision about, or you're kind of, with the person blindfolded, as they often are in the two of swords, maybe you don't feel you have all the information you need around it. So I think for many of you, there's a new relationship that's either just come into being that you're trying to explore, or one that's coming in, and it is really major if that's the case. And it looks to me like very positive with the sun and the moon together. They're both upright. There's just that sense, as I say, the alchemical wedding that is with that. If you are already in a relationship, then there may be decisions about the level to take it to, what to do with it next. Or even, I'm getting for some, it may be a decision around whether you want to become parents, for instance, or something like that. Take the creative alchemical energy on that level forward. If this isn't about a love relationship, then I think that you're going to find a friend or a business partner or something like that that takes a creative vision forward for you. Whatever it is, there is a lot of energy, and it's positive around relationships. It's just that you don't have all the facts that you need. And it's interesting that is impacting this energy down here, which I'm going to jump to rather than go to career first, around your well-being, because in your well-being, it looks like you've been going through a period where you haven't had as much hope in things as you might have had. And I do think some of that might be about your career, which I'll get to. But what's interesting is to have the moon and the high priestess here. This suggests to me that the information you need around relationship is going to have an impact on your well-being, but it will come about. You will find it out, and possibly psychically. There's likely to be a very strong psychic connection with this person, whoever they are. And that will allow you on a more manifest level to make the decision. It's like you are someone who likes to know the facts so that you can make material decisions, and in all aspects of your life. So not, in relationships, it's interesting, we're not seeing cups, we're seeing, I want the facts, I want to understand, and then I want to make a material decision in some way. You seem to be very earthy. You seem to be someone who doesn't like just to be in love with love. You want the real connection, and one that can actually be manifest. And it looks to me, once you find that connection, then you have renewed hope, and that helps your general well-being, and it allows you to make other decisions about well-being. So they're very strongly connected, your relationships and your sense of well-being, but you need them to be grounded. You're not, doesn't mean that you're not romantic, but you're not someone who it's all just I'm in love with love and so forth. You really want to see something real. And there is a very strong possibility of a very significant and real relationship around you, or taking one to the next level if you think you're already in it. But some of this lack of hope, I think, is because of stuff around career and finance. So there are some challenges for you around this. It looks to me as though you're doing something you just don't really like. To put it bluntly, with both the Knight of Water or Cups and the Queen of Water both reversed, it suggests to me that whatever you're doing with your career to make money and so forth is not feeling like it's truly authentic to your emotions. What's interesting about you, Pile 3, is that in your emotional life, you're very practical. In your career life, you want the emotional connection. But I think you put a lot of your emotion, in fact, into career, into vocation, into having a cause. But it looks as though you feel like you haven't been able to do that of late. And there is an energy here with the Four of Air or Four of Swords reversed that you want to sort of come out a little bit more and show what you want to do and who you truly are and what you truly believe in. So it may be that the energy of the supernova is connected to this, that you make a radical change around how you do your job, where you work, whether you start a new business, whatever it might be. But you do need to make sure that it is connected to your heart, because it looks as though you've been following a career to make money only, or to suit other people's ideas about what and who you should be, but you're becoming more and more aware that that's not fulfilling your heart. So there's something there, and this may be, a lot of the energy may be here. It may even be that this person coming in helps you to do that, connects you to the heart. That's why I kind of got the sense that for some of you, this may be a business partner, but it may be a business partner and a romantic partner all in one as well too. It's interesting. This is where this supernova energy in one form or another needs to be ignited. And that doesn't mean you just suddenly leave a job if you don't have something to go to. Obviously, you need to think about your financial situation, but it may be that starting to focus there about what would it be to love your work. It might be that you can shift what you're doing at the moment and be more clear about that without having to necessarily leave a workplace or anything like that. Spiritually, you're ready to fly as well. And this is saying your spiritual ability, which is significant. It's significant because it's coming up with the moon and sun together here around relationships, and it's coming up as the high priestess. Your spiritual connectedness, your psychic ability has a lot to do with your well-being, and it is something that frees you. It's though you get the revelations in a sense probably about a heart-centered job. From your spiritual development, you are very emotionally again connected and developed around that, but you don't feel with the Jupiter with Wheel of Fortune reversed here that necessarily you're as in control of it as you would like to be. So that suggests to me it is very interesting. All your heart stuff is over on the spiritual and the career, and then the material is over here on the relationship and well-being. So I feel as though your way through to your heart is through developing what you've done spiritually, but you need to understand you're more in control of it, that you have more of this supernova impact than you think. There is more within you in a sense of a supernova. You have all that fiery energy and the developed emotional core, but I think it's something in your work life that's made you doubt that. So I think that's where you need to sort of focus, how do I reclaim my power? How do I reclaim a sense that I am in control of my destiny rather than just at the whims of fate? Okay, so let's have a look at what cards were under the card that brought you here. So there's a couple of cards for each of these elements, after which we'll do some other oracles for other information for you before doing the yes/no questions. So firstly, around relationships, we have decision. Yes, there's a decision. There's a decision around a relationship for you, definitely. And third party. Okay. So for some of you, the decision might be about, is this the right relationship? Is there somebody else? For some of you, you may meet your divine counterpart and they may be with someone and there's a third party. For some, it may connect to work and it may be about other people's input. I'm getting for some of you, it's just other people's views about who you should be with, in which case you need to make that decision. That may be part of you claiming your supernova energy. So it sort of depends on the situation. I don't get the sense, I have to say, that this is like a love triangle. Maybe it is for some of you if that resonates, but I don't really feel that. I feel with the sun and the moon together, it feels too positive, but there may be other people interfering in one form or another, or it may be even a past relationship that sort of interferes and you need to make a decision about that to release that energy. Okay, let's have a look at career. Okay, so this is sort of a dual message and it fits with what's sort of in the general energy around your career and finances. On one level, it's saying that you're coming into a period where you don't have to worry as much about finances as you might have, and potentially sort of moving up the ladder as an executive and so forth. Your hidden talents coming out. So with the Four of Air reversed, it could be coming out and showing what talents you have, and so that you can move forward and so forth and do something that's more true to who you are. It is suggesting that various business tools and so forth would be useful. So it may be thinking about, if say for instance you were running a business and you're not feeling like it's truly doing what you want it to do, it might be more about the networks and the tools that you're using and so forth. But certainly there's a sense that potentially more work and a movement up the ladder could occur, but it does require you to work out, reconcile what it is that you're unhappy about with what you're doing at the moment. Let's have a look around well-being. So this card talks about sleep, so get rest. But I'm also getting, because we've got the High Priestess and we're also getting the Star reverse, that you probably will get real downloads, spiritual downloads through sleep. Pay attention to your dreams. And projecting. Okay. I do think actually watch your dreams. What I'm getting from this is that there's astral projection. I don't feel like that's you projecting on other people. That's not the sense I'm getting from this. Beyond that, you project a little bit, as I say, your emotions into this side of your life and your material into this. So there may be a little bit of a thing about getting that into balance, getting more sleep, feeling better in yourself because of the amount of energy that's coming through. But I feel it's primarily talking about astral projection, so pay attention to your dreams. And so that leads nicely onto spirit to see what else we have around your spiritual development. Abundance, so that's lovely. Just moving that up so you can see it fully. And discipline. Okay. So I'm actually getting an interesting sort of message with those two together. It's definitely saying this supernova energy is coming in, you can create abundance. But because I don't think you've fully worked out what it is you would love to do and how you would bring in that abundance and connected it more with your heart, relationships and your general well-being, then you need to really think about the decisions that you make around this and the discipline that you bring to it. Because there is a hell of a lot of energy coming through, and it's abundant energy, it's good energy, it's significant relationships. But you need to have disciplined the way that you use the different modalities of your life. So your emotions and your sort of physical well-being and your career and so forth. It's like to get that into alignment and to discipline that in some way because of the amount of energy that's coming in. Okay, let's see some classic fortune cards for you over this period. Okay, so this is giving us a bit more information, I think, on why we need the discipline here and why your spiritual sort of centers are important. There is revelry and indulgence here. I do think that around relationships and so forth, there's sort of like really fun times to come, and there's nothing wrong with that. Do that, but be aware that because of the intensity of the stuff around that, your emotions will be at their peak. And it says a barrier keeps you from your goal, and I think it is, the barrier is actually this line between the two. It's the fact that your emotions sit over here, but they actually should sit over here. So it's like enjoying that and using the emotions positively around relationship and around well-being to give you energy to help fuel the supernova, rather than feeling sort of stuck and not able to control things sitting over here on career and so forth. So the barrier is really you and this projection of energies across different areas of your life. If you release that and then you make decisions that are based on what makes you happiest in each of them, then you're going to use this supernova energy the best way. Let's have a look at what angel numbers there are to support you. Oh my goodness, we got discipline twice. It's definitely a thing. And I think it is because of the fact that there is so much energy that will be coming through. But you do need to discipline where you put that energy. You do need to make sure that career stuff connects to your heart, but that also your heart connects to your heart. It's like it's you really taking this very seriously because of the amount of energy that's coming through. So discipline with this one, Angel 106, you are being called to assert yourself and take initiative. You're stepping into your power and authority. So you won't stay stuck in this sort of feeling of inauthenticity or lack of connection to your work. You won't stay stuck spiritually where you feel you aren't in control. This energy is coming through. And I do think for many of you what will trigger this is a significant relationship or a shift in a relationship that is significant and positive. We also have the angel 1919, which is of resolution. Your angels are preparing you for certain cycles to end. Trust that the divine's plan for you is for your highest good. So anything that is changing will be coming from you bringing this supernova energy through and understanding what barriers you've put in, because maybe some of them, maybe it is around career for many of you, that you are going to, at the very least, lay the seeds to shift that significantly going forward, because you come to realise that it's important to have a heart-centred career, for instance, or it could be shifting from one relationship to another, whatever it might be. but there's a sense of resolution, ending what isn't working and moving into what is. So that's that birth of the new. The other thing that I'm getting is the original message from that, which is that once that birth of the new has occurred, once that rush of energy has occurred, the card does talk about how then the energy that you need to go forward is different. So if you think of it as an explosive new energy, and then it needs more of a calm energy, then that is resolving anything from that explosion in a way and bringing it into a more disciplined and ordered way of being. So that may resonate for some of you. Okay, so before we finish off with some music oracles for a little bit of an amusing end, we will do a couple of questions with the yes/no coin. So these are any questions that you want to ask about that have a yes/no answer. I'm not going to go into any great detail because it's just yes or no. So I'm going to flip the coin twice and show you the answer twice. If you need to pause between each of these to think of your question, by all means do so. But if you could now think about your first question. And the answer is no. Okay. And if you can think about your second question, pause if you need to. And the answer is yes. So you have a no and a yes. Okay, so to finish off, we're going to do a couple of sort of oracles that may be a little bit amusing around this, just to sort of give it a kind of a musical end. So we're going to start with a couple of cards that could be the soundtrack of your February and March, and then we're going to use the music oracles. I'll be missing you. Impulsive. Okay, so the impulsive very much connects to the supernova thing. Maybe you're going to do something that surprises people. You're going to really sort of, you could potentially leave a workplace if you have somewhere else to go to. As I say, be careful about those sort of things. Don't put yourself into financial difficulty. Make sure you have a discipline and a strategy if that's the case. But you will have impulsive energy. You will have this supernova energy. I'll be missing you. It may be that if you are leaving somewhere, you'll miss people. It could be that you have this really strong connection to someone, but you can't be with them all the time because you're sorting out other things. It could be that you are leaving behind certain relationships to bring in others. So there may be that sort of sense of missing people or people missing you. All right, so to finish off, we're going to use the music oracles. This can just be amusing sometimes. Other times it can be really on point. So take whatever resonates, leave the rest. Got Nina Simone, a very deep singer. So that's the deep emotions and so forth. And she used a lot of emotion around her career. So it would have been very important to her to be emotionally connected to what she did as a career or vocation. Her advice to you are never trust cures from the system that made you sick. Okay, so down here there was something with the star reversed that made you lose hope to some degree. I do think a lot of it has to do with something around your career. So when you're making your decisions about that, take into account what made you feel that way in the first place in your strategizing. She says, when love is no longer on the menu, don't eat. I do think that love will be on the menu for you, to be frank. I don't think that's really in any doubt, but maybe with the Two of Swords and the need to wait for that kind of psychic connection and information, just wait for that and then allow that energy through. And then she says, there is nothing more beautiful than speaking truth to power. So for some of you, there may be something like that with the Four of Swords reversed in your career. Otherwise, I think it's more that energy of power that you will have and the truth and the resolution of bringing together your heart with all the aspects of your life rather than kind of compartmentalizing it as I think you've been doing. So I hope that resonates for you, Pile 3. I hope it was helpful. If so, please like the video and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 4, to your reading. So as I said, before we lay out the tarot to look at love and relationships, career and finance, general well-being and spiritual development, we're going to look at the energy of the card that brought you here. So I think it's almost inevitable that anybody who chose a card that said out of darkness is doing that because you've been through a period of time where there have been difficulties, reversals, things have gone slowly or not the way that you would want. Maybe some of you in a spiritual sense have felt that you're in a kind of dark night of the soul. Could be difficult relationships, whatever it is. The beauty of this card is its promise that better is coming. What it talks about is that often the seed that will eventually be the plant of bounty, of happiness, of love, or whatever it is. When a seed is first planted, it spends quite a bit of its time in the darkness, in the soil, before it becomes something that we see in the light of day. So there's something about that energy for you. There's something about something that you've seeded, something that you've hoped for, now finally starting to get to the point that it will come into being. Whether it's going to be in February, March, or whether you are planting the seeds in February, March that will actually then come to flower in the following months, will depend upon whoever's come here and the circumstances that this is describing. But it's certainly suggesting that better is coming. It's also saying that for many of you, whatever this period of darkness was in its own way a gift, that it is the thing that helps to birth this new and better outcome. So if you had been struggling in a career, it's the strength that you found and the clarity that you found to bring in the next right job for you. If it's difficulties around a relationship, it might have been the sort of need to work out and resolve things that actually makes a relationship stronger, or that releases you from one so that you can bring better love in, or whatever it might be. So it's got a sort of energy of it about the things that seem to be adversity or difficulty or boundaries or barriers are in fact eventually going to be seen to be gifts, but you're coming out of that period of time. So we'll see with the tarot whether this is in one or more areas of your life and what sort of energy is coming in for February, March for you, pile 4. So firstly around love and relationships. I think for many of you there's been stuff around love and relationships, but I'll get into that in more detail. And then around work. Actually, ditto. Maybe for many of you it's in both, or it might be that some have come here, it's in one, and for some it's in the other. Around general well-being, and then around spiritual. Wow. So firstly, what I would say is there's a real sense of an uprush of creative energy, ambition, and so forth, following difficulty, because I sort of feel it in its own way as the 4th card of every single one of these. So I just want to point this out first. So in relationship, the 3rd card is the Knight of Air, that sense of sort of breaking free, doing something different, surprising people if necessary, really doing the sort of quirky and the individual and being who you are. In the 3rd card for career and finance, we have the King of Fire, or the King of Wands. So that is really coming into being, into leadership, into charisma, into ambition and establishing yourself. In general well-being, the 3rd card is the Magician. So using all your sort of skills, abilities and so forth to communicate to the world who you really are and how you want to be, and to feel better in that space. And then over here for spiritual well-being, we have the Ace of Fire, or Ace of Wands, as the 3rd card. And aces are blessings, they're new beginnings. I feel there's a real seed connection here. There's a seed of creative and sort of warm, fiery energy spiritually for you, which I think is the thing that starts to give birth to turning around some of the challenges that I see in every area of your life. So for either most people who come here, it's been kind of across your whole life. There's just been a kind of a block that is ultimately meant to give birth to whatever this Ace of Fire is spiritually, that brings everything in and allows these sort of energies to come into being. Or it could be that one or two of these are applying, depending, as it's a collective reading. So I definitely see this sense of coming from a spiritual aha. There is major shifts in all the aspects of your life that you've felt blocked. And for people coming here, you have felt blocked in at least one or more of these. So in the relationship energy, we've got the 9 of Air, or 9 of Swords reverse. We've got the 6, the Lovers reverse. So I think many of you have had difficult relationships where there's been a lot of conflict, relationships where there could have been some gaslighting or guilt tripping, or very sort of difficult sort of like, communication energy between you and so forth. And I do think you're going to make a major shift. I think for many of you, you are either going to go, enough is enough, this is how it's got to be, kind of lay it on the on the table, and this is how it needs to be, otherwise this isn't working, and you move on or you break through. So it's that the crash or crash through type of feeling around this. It's not necessarily saying you're going to leave, but it is saying that you're going to do something out of character or what people expect of you to shift an energy that has not been either honest or flowing properly and has had a lot of nervous energy around it. So there's a possibility for some of you that this could be about breaking free from a relationship where there was sort of infidelity, or even where you have felt drawn towards that. It just depends with that card reversed. It could be either potentially, it doesn't have to be about that, but for some of you it may be about that, a third party in one form or another. But there's been a lot of anxiety around it, and it's pushing you towards clarifying who you want to be and being more open about that. And it's almost philosophical. It's really, what is a relationship to me, and so forth. If it's not about a love relationship, then there's been just a lot of discord around you with friendships, family, or even work colleagues. And again, you're coming to a point where you're breaking free, and you're going to say, this is who I am. Take it or leave it is almost the feeling around it. Similarly, over here in the workplace, as I say, there's a sense that you're moving into leadership, being true to yourself, showing your charisma, showing your energy, showing your ambition. But it has been following a period of time where you felt like you couldn't do that at all, and where there was potentially a lot of disruption, maybe a lot of bickering, a lot of sort of like, almost childish sort of energy around your career. I'm not saying it's you. I think it's more other people around it. But with the 3 of Wands reversed, and the 4 of Wands, they're both sort of cards which in a career aspect, if they were the right way up, would suggest people being on a sort of journey and an adventure together and really working well as a team. But it looks like sort of people around, team around, colleagues around, whatever it might be, there's just been a lot of tension, there's been a lot of arguing, there's been a lot of pulling in different directions. And again, it looks like you take the lead. For some people, this may be that you are a manager and you've been dealing with a very rambunctious, difficult team, and you are going to have to really step forward and take the lead on it. For others, it may be that you have or will move into a position of some authority, and you're going to have to sort out maybe jealousy and that sort of issue from people. So it depends on where you are with your career. It depends on whether you're in a business on your own, and these are maybe issues around collaborators, or whether it's employees, or whether it's a team that you're in. But there's definitely been a lot of, it just looks like squabbling and ego clashes and things like that. Not anything major, but it's just disruptive. It's not pleasant energy. But you look like you are going to start to work out how to lead yourself in that situation, or move on, or whatever it might be. Around your general well-being, this is probably the most positive of and they're all positive where they're going, but in terms of the energies that you've been dealing with, the energies that made you feel in darkness, I think you're basically pretty lucky with your constitution, with your well-being. You're someone who can deal with quite a lot. You've got a strong constitution, quite a lot of energy and so forth. And you can communicate really well, and you can think really well to sort out what needs to happen, and have a strategy around making sure it doesn't affect you. The only area around your well-being is around whether or not you want to go into a battle. And I feel it's primarily in work there because of the Emperor, but it could also be around a relationship. So where you feel a lack of well-being is where there's a battle you have to enter into, or where you feel like someone's trying to control you. So it's the only thing, but you're using your magician energy and the general good fortune around you. You should be fine with all of that. It's just being aware of how much controlling energy around you can impact you physically, and getting the rest and so forth that you need if you're dealing with that. Around spiritual energy, I think that many of the people who've come here, you've maybe been around spiritual doctrines or spiritual approaches or spiritual people that aren't what they appear to be. There's something a little bit untrue about some of it, and it looks as though you are going to come out from following people to being sort of someone who has your own idea, your own approach and so forth. It feels like a liberation from something that maybe had people who said, I'm the best at this and you're my followers or something. It's like you are going to have your own spiritual approach, your own spiritual way of doing things. So, for instance, if you were learning to do something like tarot, for instance, it's like you're coming out of a period of time where maybe somebody has been saying, I'm the font of all wisdom on tarot, and understanding that you, in fact, have your own spiritual abilities and your own spiritual approach and so forth. Or it could be that you're coming out of a more conventional sort of way of, following a religion, for instance, because you've seen something that doesn't sort of align with the supposed values of the religion. So there's, in every single one of these areas, powerful, there's a sense of bursting out with the new, and that I feel is the seeds that you lay to be more happy with what you're doing in one or more of these aspects of your life. So let's see what the cards were that were intuitively pulled for each of these. So I've got a couple for each for a little bit more information. So firstly, around relationships, we've got fear. That doesn't surprise me with that sword energy. And disconnected. Oh, and I just realised that I must have pulled 3 for this. So they must have done that for a reason. And we'll look at all of them. So fear, disconnected, and validation. Okay. So validation is interesting. I do think that part of this and part of what's had you in the darkness is maybe having given over, and not just in relationships, because relationships are not just love anyway, but in all your connections with other people, your power to some degree. And I think that February, March is the birth of coming out of the darkness and claiming your power back. So not needing validation, being true to who you are. There's a kind of a fear and disconnection that comes from the validation. I feel as though there's been something around relationships with you where you felt if you were really true to what you wanted, or you spoke your truth in some way, or you sought out answers, you were going to hear something you didn't want to hear, or you'd feel disconnected. But this energy is building up in you. You need to look into these things, face them, and then make decisions that are right for you. Okay, let's have a look at career and finance. Okay, so it's interesting because with the watch here, this can be both time to profit, divine timing, all that sort of thing, seize the moment, seize the new beginning, but it's also potentially temporary work or laid off. Some of you may have left a workplace because it was just all too tumultuous or difficult in recent months or in the last year or something. If so, maybe you do temporary work for a while before you actually find your next step. But having said that, you have a lot of luck coming in. So there's a lucky break coming in, good fortune and so forth. So, and surprises around it. And I think it would feel like a surprise. I feel like here you just sort of feel like work is just like all this petty rubbish all the time, and change for change's sake, and instability and all that sort of thing. I think you're moving into a better period of time, but it's almost like a stroke of luck makes you realise that. And hopefully that comes in February or March. Let's have a look at general well-being. So we have throat and blame. Okay. This is connected. These two are connected. There's something about a relationship or a series of relationships around you. It is possible that for some it's around bickering in the workplace, but that feels like bickering and that sort of thing rather than something more significant. It feels like there's something significant around relationships. And being able to speak, the throat chakra is important, being able to speak your truth and so forth, without blame, but also not taking on the blame. I feel that some of you have been guilt-tripped by somebody, and you shouldn't take that on. And you shouldn't be looking for them to say it's okay and validate you and so forth. Because if you're in that space, you're already disconnected, and it's probably just as well. If you can move through and speak without blame, without any of those sort of energies, then your general well-being is better. See, this is why the Emperor reversed is the only sort of tricky card around the well-being. Your overall well-being is fine, but there's stuff around control and relationships and blame and guilt-tripping and gaslighting that you need to sort through. Let's have a look over here spiritually, because I do feel that some shift about what you do spiritually is the birth of all the better energy and coming out of the darkness for you. So we have change, and I think change is exactly what you need. Change across one or more areas of your life. Okay, change and denial, so don't deny it. See, there's a push-pull going on here. I think that what it's saying is there's so much energy that can come through, and you are ready to come out of the darkness, but you do need to face fears about relationship issues. You do need to be able to speak your truth without blame. You do need to be able to recognise and take new opportunities with work and take change. Don't deny it. It's like in one or more areas of your life, it is time to come out of darkness, and that darkness has been there for a reason. And it is to shift you. It's, as I said, that sometimes the thing that has been difficult has been the thing that is the gift. But you need to take that on. You're much stronger than you think you are. Much stronger than you think you are. Let's have a look at some general fortune energy for you in February, March. Okay, so emotions are at their peak, and I do feel that they are, but it's the sort of fear, it's the constrictive emotions. You need to sort of face those, move forward and make decisions and so forth to allow the better luck to come through and so forth, and to allow you to come through, because I think you've suppressed yourself. This says you will receive news from afar. So I suspect it might be around work. I suspect there might be something that shifts that. That allows you to sort of see how you can sort of move forward more strongly. But for some of you, it might be news that you hear around this relationship that shifts it. Either way, however, bright new prospects are on the horizon. Things are getting better. So that validates your original choice. You're on the money with that, pile 4. Things are about to get better. Let's see what angel numbers will help you. Belief. And discipline. That's interesting. Discipline came up for somebody else as well. So there might be some of you that have come to a couple of readings. So the angel of belief, 222, your angels are encouraging belief in you. Consider mastering your strength, willpower and confidence. Yes, that's the key message here. You have everything that you need. Don't doubt yourself. Don't let other people talk you into doubting yourself, or talk you into thinking that their validation is the thing that defines you. It doesn't. You will define you. And then we have discipline, Angel 106. You are being called to assert yourself and take initiative. You are stepping into your power and authority. So yes, have the discipline to do that. Do not get caught up in your own sort of mental anguish and worry about the consequences of things and blame and all that kind of thing. Step into all those energies that I saw in those third cards, which are in each of these areas, where you move into a sort of fiery and self-actualized sort of energy. Okay, so before we close out with some music oracles, which will hopefully be a little bit more lighthearted, I did say we're going to use the yes/no coin. So basically I'm just going to flip this twice off camera so I don't potentially break the camera. And if you think in each case, as I say, of your question, if you need to pause to think of your questions, that's fine. But we'll go 1 and 2, and it's just going to be yes and no. I'm not going to sort of obviously define anything about it, because it's just a simple yes/no question. So if you could think about your first one now, pause if you need to. And the answer is yes. Okay. And you think about your second one, pause if you need to again. And the answer is no. So yes and no. Okay. So to finish off, firstly, we're going to pull a couple of cards from the Jukebox Oracle to see what the soundtrack of your life is during February and into March. And then we're going to pull a card from the Music Oracles for a humorous, light-hearted, but hopefully also helpful ending in terms of advice for you. So, kiss. Quit playing games. Okay. So this is I think picking up sorting out the relationship. So there is the possibility of sorting it out. And I think this is what it's saying. But it's shifting a power dynamic. It's getting things more honest and so forth. It may also be that you in fact move on from one to find another person that might be part of that sort of energy that I saw at the beginning. But certainly you don't want games being played anymore. And there have been games played with you, but you've understood that, and you're going to move forward and be more authentic with people, and it's not really that you that's not been authentic, except that I think that you've been hesitant to speak your truth, but I think you're going to speak your truth more, which will bring more balance in. Okay, so lastly we'll pull a card from the Music Oracles. As I say, that can just be amusing or it might be deep. We'll see. Take from it what works for you, leave the rest. We've got Kurt Cobain. Okay, so there's someone very, very strong, sort of like emotional energy and so forth, emotions being on high beam in all of this and so forth, but incredibly creative and incredibly iconic. So his advice is, firstly, we're all in this mess together, so we may as well make some noise. So yes, it may well be for many of these things, once you actually step forward, you'll find that a lot of people come with you and follow you. That it's not necessarily that you're going to find that you're being rejected or anything. It's just more that you need to speak up, and you'll probably find others feel similarly to you. He says, don't become your own tribute band. Yes, don't settle for things that are like petty over here or aren't really emotionally authentic here. You know, lead out, pick these fire energies and so forth, and take that forward. And then you can't buy teen spirit. So that's you. I think that's just, you can't be bought, really. I think that you've gone along to get along for quite a while because of the environments and relationships you're in have been quite complex over time, but you are ready to come forward and be much more clear and authentic about what you want. And I think you're going to find that works out a lot better than you think. You are coming out of darkness, but it is very, very important for you to be clear and true to yourself. So Pile 4, I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share about it in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.